tech leaders. Welcome to Control-Alt-Delete with Lisa Dury Live. I'm Lisa Dury, your guide through the ever-evolving landscape of leadership in tech. We're breaking down barriers and bringing our community together in real time. So whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your office chair or catching the replay later, please know that your voice matters. Speaking of voices, that's what firm leadership is all about. Listening, inviting wisdom, and embracing the collective intelligence of our teams. Because let's face it, no one leader has all the answers, and that's where you come in. As we dive into today's discussion, please be an active participant. Drop your thoughts, questions, and insights into the comments below. This isn't just my podcast, it's ours. Together, we're rebooting Leadership Drive. And before we kick things off, I'd like to mention that this podcast and live stream experience is brought to you by RLD Group. As your host and the CEO of RLD Group, I'm grateful for the opportunity to collaborate and bring in this podcast to life. Together, we're committed to empowering organizations, teams, and leaders like you, and your engagement in this conversation is invaluable. So without further ado, let's jump into the conversation, get comfy, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's make some magic happen. Welcome, everyone, to today's live stream of Control-Alt-Delete with Lisa Dury. I am Lisa Dury, your host, and I am so excited to be spending time with you today on a topic that's near and dear to my heart. It is the foundation of our organization and how we interact with our clients. It's a game changer at work and in life. Today, we're going to be diving into the wisdom of firm leadership, and we're going to explore how intuition plays a pivotal role in shaping our decisions, relationships, and overall success through the lens of strengths. We're going to dive deep into the intricate connection between understanding ourselves, leveraging our unique strengths to thrive personally and professionally. The reason that's important, if this isn't already obvious, is to prevent burnout and to have a flourishing organization. Playing to your strengths, knowing what your strengths are, is a critical thing to do for you, your team, and your organization. And when it comes to intuition, when you're thinking about the world today with the complexities everyone's facing, the always on, the pressure prompted, the sense of urgency that is over the top, well, we want to help you prevent burnout and we want to help you thrive. So I'm going to drop a statistic in before I introduce our guest. And I just want to highlight that 76% of employees experience burnout on the job at least sometimes. So if that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what is, because 76%, that's a red alert. So the reason we're having our guest here today is not only because she's a strengths expert, but it's also because she's my coach. So I wanted to ask her to come in to talk to us today about strengths, intuition, and firm leadership. So we're going to welcome Linda Thompson to the stage, everyone. Linda Thompson is here. Linda, hello.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Can you hear me? I'm really, really good. I'm so glad you're here. And it's an honor to share this stage with you right now. So I'm going to give your official bio, but anyone who's here with us live who knows Linda, drop in the chat your favorite thing about Linda. Let's blow that up because I have a lot of favorite things. So our guest today, Linda Thompson, is a Gallup-certified strengths coach. Following a successful management and leadership career spanning healthcare, nonprofit management, and education-focused philanthropy, she now coaches individuals like me and teams like ours, seeking awareness of their naturally occurring talents and how to apply them to their goals. Linda's top 5 strengths are discipline, connectedness, relator, input, and responsibility. For me, I consider her a key member of the RLD Group Collective. I consider myself so lucky to call her my coach and my colleague. So Linda, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm really delighted to be chatting with you here. You know, I am fully bought in on Clifton Strengths. I think it's a highly effective tool for personal and professional development. And I love sharing it with others. I love talking about it. And for those of you out here who joined from my network, I'm so honored. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I invited you because somewhere along the way in my personal or professional journey, you had a meaningful impact on me. And so thank you for that and for joining Lisa and I today.
Well, let's drop this up. So Beatrice is saying smart, kind, thoughtful, and inspiring, Linda.
Thank you,
Right?
Beatrice. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I agree, Beatrice. I agree. If I could chat it right now, I would too. So, hey, the reason we're here today is when we think about firm leadership, we're going to drop the definition there, but RLD Group has a firm leadership model, and we're talking about this through the lens of the I in firm today, which stands for intuition. But this model is something that we bring into the organizations we work with. And Linda, you know this quite well, because technical skills aren't everything you need anymore. We need to figure out how to navigate the complexity and the pressure to be able to thrive as leaders. And I know intuition for me is something that I have a lot of gut instincts. You know this as my coach and my colleague. And some people don't have access to that. They don't even really understand that it's even labeled as intuition. And I thought we could really dive into that today because I think it's something that is more powerful than people understand. And I thought between strengths and intuition, this is the conversation for today. So what's your initial thought on that, Linda? What do you want to say about intuition? We'll drop into strengths and all the good stuff, but where do you stand on intuition as a competency and skill for leaders?
Yeah, thank you. So first I think I wonder, it may be helpful for us to say what we think intuition is to, kind of come up with a definition and maybe even compare that with instinct and with confidence. And so, if we look at a formal definition of intuition, we see that it's the ability to understand something immediately and without the need to consciously reason through it. And but another thing that we know about intuition is that it develops when we repeatedly experience situations and we get feedback on those situations. So even though we're not using conscious reasoning, somewhere along the way, there has been input to whatever that intuitive feeling is. Instinct to me is more is more responsive, is more related to the fact of being a biological organism, and less about our intellectual experiences that we've processed in the past and now are more intuitive. And then confidence, especially the Clifton Strengths self-assurance, seems to me best aligned with intuition in self-assurance. It's that confidence, that faith, that belief that you will act in the right way, in a proper and in an effective way. And how many of us have followed the Frozen and Frozen 2? And
yeah.
Self-assurance, the Clifton Strengths self-assurance is modeled by the main character, particularly in Frozen 2, when she just has to do the next right thing. So that's what we see. But here's the interesting thing. In Clifton Strengths, self-assurance is the least likely talent theme to show up in anybody's top 5. The least likely, less than 5% of the time. And so I think we need to think about that. And if we think together with the idea that intuition comes from repeated experiences where you've had feedback, then we can begin to use our other talents, our other strengths to look at where we've been successful, to repeat those experiences, to build that self-assurance, and then to be more in tune with our intuition.
When I think about this, as you're saying it out loud, I think both of us have self-assurance in the middle somewhere. You were saying we're both 18. We both have it at 18.
Mm-hmm. Around, in the middle.
Yeah. And when I think about this, and for those of you who are familiar with Clifton Strengths and you're here with us live, drop something in here. Let us know you know what that is. If not, we'll dive deeper too. Mm-hmm. But I know 30 million people have taken this assessment. And I know that when you're telling us 5% for self-assurance, that's a big thing to pay attention to, because when you're saying that intuition comes with repeated experiences and feedback, I would like to add that I think also reflection is an important component here, right? So I do a lot of self-reflection. You know this about me. In my head, I'm always running through what worked, what didn't, and what could I do next? And you and I joke sometimes about how strategic is my number one. So for those of you that have your report, I got mine handy, right? This is what it looks like if you've been looking for it. Lots of data. But strategic being my number one, I've been with your coaching really looking at that through a different lens and realizing that's about seeing options and ways to get things done and, trusting myself that I'll figure it out. And I think that this is why for me, intuition was something that it's not that I had a label for it, but I have definitely figured out like there's always a way. We're going to figure it out, whatever it takes. So I know strategic is probably higher for many than self-assurance. And since I have that, I just wondered maybe we could spend a moment there to just lobby back and forth to help people understand how intuition might be built through a strengths lens of strategic as well.
Yeah. So that's it. Thank you for bringing that up, Lisa, because I think it's important to point out in the Clifton Strengths model that you can have the same outcome through different pathways. And so it's not to say that if you don't have self-assurance in the top 5, that you don't have self-confidence. We can use many other talents to develop confidence. We can use many other talent themes to get at that intuition piece, to get at intuition. And so, strategic is a perfectly good example, but if you use your strategic talents and people who have strategic talents, I don't, by the way, Lisa and I balance each other perfectly.
We really do.
So, people with high strategic talent can see many pathways through a situation. They can see many pathways and then fairly quickly can see the most efficient or the most effective pathway through. And so if a person does that and they experience success with that, then like Lisa was saying, to be self-reflective and look back and say, oh, okay, great. That worked out the way I wanted it to. Now, what did I do? How was I using my talents? What was it there that made that really work for me? And how can I reapply it again in a different scenario? So that is exactly how we get more in touch with our intuitive self to get that feedback. Sometimes it's our own feedback. Sometimes it's asking others. A lot of organizations, when a big project goes off, they'll have a debrief and they'll say, well, what went well with that? What do we want to repeat? What might we do differently next time? And that reflective experience helps people think about their strengths, think about where it worked, and think about reapplying those in another situation. Yeah. And so you just continually build on your strength and on your success.
Yeah. And I think the thing about strengths for me, Linda, that I always inspired when I talk to you and with our clients, people have such ahas like, oh my gosh, that's why. Oh, that's that part of me. Oh, that's why I don't like that. We were joking before in the green room how discipline is Linda's number 1 and it's my 34th, right? And so Linda's always on time with her emails, always follows up, and I'm WhatsApping her going, oh my gosh, I forgot to do such and such, right? But she has grace for me and we know that. And so one of the things I was thinking about in our, with all the work we've done together, Linda, with our clients is, we have high execution talents and themes throughout tech. And we know that it's always on, pressure prompted, and everything is urgent. And when I think about intuition, part of me wants to just presence for everyone that you have to take a moment to breathe and a moment to like clear out the noise and a moment to just give yourself the space to like access and reflect with the questions you're saying. But what tip might you have, just whether or not people know their strengths? We all know what execution looks like. It's very obvious to see in action, right? What's a tip you would give people to invite themselves to access their intuition? Like, I'll just pause with that question and see where it goes.
All right. Thank you for that. I think what I want to do here, Lisa, is share a little bit of Gallup's research on effective leadership.
Great.
So I think one of the things that Gallup did differently, we know there's like a plethora of information out there about leadership, what makes a good leader, how to be a leader, how to grow leadership development programs everywhere. But what Gallup did is they did not look at leaders to understand what makes a good leader. They surveyed followers. Okay, you're not a leader unless somebody's following you, right? And so what are the traits of those people who are successful because they have a following, because their organization respects them and looks up to them and wants to follow them, or because on social media or even politicians, or, who are the followers and what is it that they look to? And so it's very interesting because the research did not show what you would think. It did not show wisdom. It didn't show strategy, fame, power, not even charisma. And this research was not done in a way that the people being asked, you know, what do you look for in a leader? It was open-ended. It wasn't a multiple choice thing. And so amazingly, 4 words came up over and over and over and over again. And those words are trust, compassion, stability, and hope. These are the things that followers need from their leaders. And so this is where leaders can think about the burnout statistic that you gave. Well, what's happening? Why are people experiencing that? Are they feeling hopeless? Is the position unstable? Tech, tech is one of the most unstable industries. When everything's going great, it's soaring and everything. And then the next day, everything tanks because who knows why, somebody said something.
Yeah.
And so how can the leader help their people feel stable in a context like that?
I'm going to go back. Can I say them again? I want to make sure people don't miss this. Trust,
compassion,
stability. I wrote it wrong. Trust, compassion, stability,
and hope.
Hope. Everyone needs some hope right now. Yeah. I'm raising my hand, right? Hope.
These are not the things you would expect to come out of a professional environment when you're asking people, what do you need from your leaders? But this is what the research shows: trust, compassion, stability, and hope. And so a leader that takes the Clifton Strengths assessment, sees their talent themes in their ranked order, in the 34 ranked order. It doesn't matter what's in the top 5. They can use those strengths in a way to build trust, compassion, stability, and hope. And that's going to be what stabilizes their workforce, what addresses burnout. And what was the other statistic that you said besides burnout?
Oh, we were just saying that 30 million people had taken the assessment. So right. It's rooted in, it's not 5 of us.
No. This is valid data.
This is valid data. Yeah. Yeah. And so when you think about the trust, compassion, stability, and hope in a high execution world with so much pressure, do you have a tip for leaders to think about how might they drop into their intuition? Because I bet when you said trust, compassion, stability, and hope, they all went, oh, duh, I want that. Right. But just because you want that doesn't mean you're intentionally creating that or providing that, much less trusting yourself to know that you have the lived experience or the resourcefulness and resilience to tap into others. Maybe you have learner or relator. So I'll just pause and I wonder what comes to mind.
Yeah, what comes to mind for me is relationships and relationships that are working. So in the way that we talked about, how do you look at a success, look at a success and say, okay, well, what did I do there? What went well? What might I do different next time? And then you build on that success, because we're talking about these uniquely personal things: trust, compassion, stability, hope. These are uniquely personal. And so I think a leader can look to those people in their organization that they know they have a strong relationship with and talk through it, ask for the input. What is it that I do that allows you to put your confidence in me? What do you trust about me? How have I helped you, feel stable in the organization? What are the things that I do? And then again, it's reliving those things. It's processing through it and saying, okay, now how can I apply this at the next level, at the next level, at the next level?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I see we're having some interaction, so I'm going to bring one of the chats up here. Alinka, I saw something about learner. So Randy, if you can put that up, let's read what Alinka says about learner. Alinka is also part of our collective, which is so cool. You're here, Alinka. Learner on her first place. So I am a learner at her number 1 is learner. And she figured out that intuition for her is aligned with being a learner. Anything you want to say about that? What comes to mind when you're hearing Alinka aligning intuition and learning?
Yeah. So, again, I think it's just the repeated experience. So here's how I imagine it. If I could ask, if I said to Alinka, how did that happen for you? I imagine she might say something like, I already knew something. I knew it in my gut. I knew it in my heart. I believe this was the right thing. So, and I started looking for validation. And so maybe she, as a learner, she read something or she listened to something or she asked somebody and repeatedly began to hear that what she already knew intuitively is actually what research shows or what other people think or what other people have experienced. And so that is, that is how I would imagine it happening through learner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then a person can tap into that to build these other, to create this stability or to give hope or to, if Alinka intuitively knows something and then she validates it with research, then she can help others see that validity by either showing them the research or sharing her experience and creating that trust and hope.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying because it's making me think. The past couple of weeks, I've been in a lot of interviews with senior level executives. We're building a training program, a knowledge activation for emerging leaders and one of our clients. Mm-hmm. And the conversations we've been having around is like, what makes a leader and what do you do in times of change fatigue and turbulent times? And I think that's why intuition for me for this topic was so important because, we used to be able to go, the pace was slower. There was more room. We didn't have generative AI and everything else going on. And, you went to a couple of classes and you figured out, okay, here's how I'm going to march forward and lead this team. And the reality is now is there's so much evolution of information and rapid change that not one person can have all the answers anymore. Mm-hmm. And so the wisdom is inside the organization and inside each of us. And if the leader can show up curious, just like your learner example of validating, hey, let me look at this and let's do some research, or me going, oh, I've done this before, so I know how this might work, but let me stay open because I might be biased because of my past experience. Mm-hmm. That when we're thinking about helping people navigate now and prioritizing intuition, I just think your point is so important because it doesn't mean you don't validate, trust your gut. You don't just trust your gut sometimes. Oh, this feels right. Let me go check with 3 people. Or, oh, I have this idea and it showed up in the shower. And I feel like instead of just pushing it aside, maybe I should go run it by the team and get their input, right? Yeah. Like it doesn't mean do intuition alone. It means be informed.
Lisa, you're making a great point because the way you're talking about it too will also build trust. The thing is, sometimes leaders feel like they have to have all the answers, right? Like they have to know what the answer is, and they have to be dynamic. They have to be able to think on their feet. They have to know. Mm-hmm. And it's not. People can see through that. If a leader is doing that because they have to, but they really don't have the confidence behind it, that doesn't really fool anybody. So to bring your people together and to explore the ideas and say, well, here's a pathway we could take. Here's a pathway we could take. Here's a pathway. I need your input. I need your ideas. Let's work through this together. That actually builds trust mm-hmm. and creates hope at the same time. And so, I also want to say, based on your, what you were saying, we can't do it alone, but everything is changing so fast and technology is constantly changing. And so that just tells me we need our intuition even more mm-hmm. now. We need it more. You can't research. You need to make a decision, within a very limited time frame. You don't have time to research everything that's going on out there in technology and management and leadership. You've got to rely on your intuition. Mm. And so, but to your point, not alone. Bring in your trusted people, talk it mm-hmm. through, and think about what worked before, think about what didn't work before, and build on your success.
Yeah. It's funny because I work with a lot of technical, engineers, if you will. I work with salespeople too and HR people. Don't get me wrong, right? But the engineers, I would never say to them, "Hey, what's your intuition?" They would look at me like I was, I had 3 eyeballs or something, right? A link I put in here. I'm curious how you would talk about intuition to engineers, so I'll answer that, and then Linda, I'll get your opinion too. And our friend Alinka with her PhD in electrical engineering, feel free to chat too, Alinka. Thank you for being here. I usually say, like, what's your gut? Or what's the history been? Or if you had to act right now, what would you do? Like, I try and force function mm-hmm. the mm-hmm. person that I'm coaching or advising to settle into it. And, because people always say, I don't know. And my coach used to tell me back in my early leadership days, well, what would happen if you did know? And I went, what is that kind of question? What does that even mean? But what she was trying to get to me was, you do know. We're going to help you access that now. So, what do you know right now? Or what feels right now? So I'm curious, Linda, speaking to engineers, because, it's not like they're walking around talking about intuition all day. They understand flow and energy and, music and all the things that can support our intuition. But how might you help an engineer access their intuition in the moment?
Yeah, exactly like you said. Ask them the question within the context that they think. And so, you may, if an engineer needs evidence, or an engineer needs formulas, or an engineer needs data, then you ask the question like that. What data do you need to make this decision? Why is this problem here? What went wrong? What was done that went wrong that now we're solving this problem? Ask the material questions in a way that gets them to think about what they already know, or what they could know if they would, lean into their intuition. Yeah, I mean, I think you have to meet them where they are, but it's still the same thing. It's, what is working, what is not working, what information do you need to know what's working, who do you need to ask, who else do we need at the table? Same line of thinking, I think. Yeah. I hope that's helpful.
It is. And where it's taking me as I think about, because we're organically flowing in this live stream, it's so much fun to me. And one of the things that is really on my heart when I think about everybody in these leadership roles, because of innovation, we've never been there before. And so what happens for people is self-doubt and shame. And I find that when you're in self-doubt and shame, you can't access intuition. It doesn't work, right? When you're angry, it's hard to access joy, right? So you might be angry for 20 minutes and find joy later. But if you're in self-doubt and shame, or you're on the verge of the burnout, so your nervous system is shot and it's just wired for survival, I think it's really hard to access your intuition. And one of the ways I've found to help people is, when I'm working with them, is to ask them, the phrase we might use as a high point story. Tell me about a time when you had a gut feeling and you acted on it. What did you learn? How did you do that? Or tell me about a time when you doubted yourself, but you figured out how to step into it. What were the steps you took? Like reminding them of their steps before.
Yeah.
And the other one that comes to mind, if it's helpful to anyone, I'm sure it is, because it's helpful in my coaching sessions with people, is, what's a story of learning? Where's a time where you learned, I should have trusted my gut? Like, when did you ignore it? Right? Because it's just going to remind people to step back in, and because we all have the lived experience. So,
yeah, I love that. Yeah, when did it work? Where's a time that you trusted your gut? For me, I would say on the personal side, I learned it through parenting. I learned I could trust my gut as a parent, as a mother, and now as a grandmother. Yeah. On the professional side, in my profession, where I learned to really trust my gut is in the hiring process, is in choosing people to bring on board, and realizing, when something didn't work out, is to look at it and go, okay, what should I have done differently? Or looking at, the great successes of teams that I've built and people that I brought on that have been highly effective and in their career, in the position I put them in, but then growing their careers and developing, then I think, what was it there? What created that success? So that's the best way to get people out of that shame and blame and just feeling less competent, is to bring them back to their successes.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say, and then I'm going to ask you for a final thought as we wrap up today. When we first did this podcast, it was one way we did it. And then I was like, I'm just going to blog. I don't have time to hair and makeup and camera and guests, and I'll just blog. Right. But I knew inside I didn't want to blog. I'm not a writer. I like to be in relation and in conversation. And the more, I've been working with strengths for years now, but the more I look at it, I'm like, Lisa, you also tried to blog and it was a abysmal failure. And I started beating myself up and thinking, a CEO should have a newsletter, a CEO, all this like shoulda, coulda, woulda stuff. And I'm like, wait, in conversation helps. So we've evolved this, and I feel so lit up by it. I'm so happy to have you here because I am playing to my strengths. And my intuition was right, Lisa. It doesn't energize me. You're not going to be able to be consistent with something that's not energizing you, and it's going to burn you out. So even when you look at the context of your role and what you're shooting on yourself, is that really your role? Is there another way you can get it done? How might you, realign yourself or surround yourself with people like Linda or myself or Alenka, all of us stronger together? That's what we do. So your story made me think of my own personal story and owning that I had shame and self-doubt about the written side. And it's like, no, I'm going to go talk.
And sometimes I'll have people look at the different tasks in their role and just do a chart of just put down the word energize, drain, energize, drain, energize, drain, just to create that self-awareness and to know what energizes them. What energizes you is where you are strong.
Right? Yeah. Well, hey, thank you, Linda. So for those of you listening live, for those of you on the replay, we want to let you know we want to continue the conversation. You can like, subscribe, and share this, or you can join us in one of our upcoming firm leadership labs where you'll have a chance to experience what it's like to work with us and on your own journey. So please join us if you'd like to. Linda, what would you like to say as a parting thought on intuition for the audience today? What is something that they can do right now to access their intuition?
Right now, to access your intuition, I guess, ask yourself one of two questions. One would be, what is the next right thing? Or a question you asked, Lisa, that I love, that I've heard you do in your work is, what matters most right now? That's what
I had a mic drop. I'm going to put that for you, Linda. So what matters most right now, and what is the next right action? You do know, access, harness, trust your gut, check your intuition with each other. You are not alone. We love spending time with you in these live streams. Linda, thank you for being here with us. You can find Linda through working with us at RLD Group. She also has her own consulting firm, FX5 Journey. Linda is amazing. I hope you all connect with her on LinkedIn and beyond. And Linda, thank you for your time today, for these nuggets and for these thoughts. One small action you can take, your next right action, and what matters most right now. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Make it a great day.